Welcome to Mom Boss Central. I'm your host, Alexia Hoffman. This podcast is where entrepreneurial moms like you and me come together for real and raw conversations filled with practical tips, genuine stories, and a whole lot of girl power. But it's not just about listening, it's about building a community. If you haven't already, make sure to join at mombosscentral.com. So whether you're sipping on a cup of coffee, pouring yourself a glass of wine, or tuning in on the go, get ready to join the conversation and become part of our supportive Mom Boss Central community. Hi, Kathleen. So happy to have you on the show. Welcome.
Hi.
Could you please introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about you as both a mom and a business owner?
My name's Kathleen. I am a nurse practitioner by professional title, I guess. Also a mom of two young boys, toddler boys. They're 3 and 5. And if any moms have boys, you know, it is wild. It is wild around here. Like I said, I'm a nurse practitioner by trade. And then I just started feeling really low vibration and not aligned in my career path, even though I worked super hard to get there and made a lot of money doing it. And so I recently have branched off into becoming a wealth and manifestation coach to help people kind of align themselves with their true purpose in life.
Yeah, that's so cool. So how old were your kids when you decided to kind of pursue your own business, and what did that look like?
Started 3 months ago, so 3 and 5.
Yeah, okay.
And it
And how has
looks
it
like
been?
chaos.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been okay. It's just like, it's good. Like when you are aligned with your true passion in life or like what you're supposed to be doing, I don't really feel like there's anything that's going to stop you. Like it's motivation with adrenaline and just trying to get to where you want to go, like how high your goals are. So it's been good. It's just definitely been trying to figure out what works best for our family.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, are you still active in your nurse practitioner role, or did you go full time into the coaching?
It's really kind of a funny story, so I'll tell you. Uh, so, like, I don't know if anybody's into astrology that's listening, but August 8th is considered quote unquote Lion's Gate portal. So, Lion's Gate portal is like when, I don't know, such and such planet, I'm not like into astrology, I just saw this on TikTok, but it was like such and such planet is in Leo, and that's like the best time to manifest your dreams. And so, my neighbor and I, like, our kids were playing downstairs and we like wrote down on a piece of paper, like, okay, in 5 years, we're going to accomplish this. In 3 months, we're going to accomplish this, blah, blah, blah. We wrote it all down. We like saged the house and we were like, namaste, like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And then like 2 to 3 days later from Lionsgate Portal, I was meditating and I'm pretty spiritual by nature, but I wouldn't say like my spirit guides talk to me all the time. I just can tell that they're there. So I was meditating and then I kept hearing 4 months, 4 months, 4 months. Now, like my manifestations were all about my husband, like going up the executive track. And like, I didn't really have like a piece of the pie in the manifestation. I guess I just didn't really know what my purpose was or what I was going to be doing, but I just knew that what I was doing wasn't it.
Yeah.
So I hear 4 months, 4 months, 4 months. Well, over the next 4 months, my life was hell. Like,
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
everything was awful. Like, things were falling apart. The kids were having anxiety. Like, as a NP, my schedule's pretty posh. Like, I would only work 3 days a week, but it still felt like I wasn't keeping up with anything. Like, the laundry was everywhere. We were eating out every night. Like, I didn't have time to prep lunches. So we were like, I was eating out for lunch. It was like all the money that was coming in from my job was going out to pay for a caterer, to pay for a house cleaner, to pay for a dog walker. Like, just it was chaos. And I remember like one day we were like woke up in the morning getting ready for work, and my husband looked at me and I looked at him and I was like, I know, like something has to change. This is not working.
Yeah.
And it was like a far cry from what I manifested, right? Like ease, abundance, wealth, beauty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I walk into work and I, on the work computer, started applying for part-time nurse practitioner jobs. Like I didn't even think I could ask my job if I could go part-time because we had just moved to the area. So I hadn't even been in my job like a year. And I just started applying to like any job that was part-time. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do. And quitting's not an option when you're in the medical field at this level because you have to keep your license active, like by having
Mm,
so many clinical hours under your belt.
yeah.
So I started applying, and then all of a sudden, my boss walks into my office, and she never walks into my office. Like I had been at that company for 8 months, and I had seen her one time because I
Oh my
float
gosh.
around, and she's remote, and like I never ever see her.
Yeah.
So she walks in. It was Nurse Practitioner Week. She hands me like my gift, and she's like, "How are things going? What's up? Good to see you." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what like my future here looks like, but like this is just not working for me." And she was like, "Okay, do you want to go part-time?" And I was like,
Oh my
"Yeah,
gosh.
I do."
That's
It was
amazing.
it was 4 months to the day that I
Oh,
heard the
wow.
words 4 months because we like looked back at it like retroactively. 4
Yeah.
months to the day is when I went part-time.
Wow. That is amazing.
I know. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So,
That's so cool that you were able to do that after, such a short time there and how it all worked itself out and she offered that to you without even having to ask.
I know, and people were saying, I remember talking to other MPs, they were like, "She let you go part-time? She never lets people go part-time." And I was
Oh
like,
my
"Yeah, she just
gosh.
said she was overstaffed." She's like, people are like, "Oh, but other people have left the company because she wouldn't let them go part-time." And I was like, "I
Oh
don't
my
know, sorry."
gosh. Yeah. Wow. Timing is everything, huh?
It sure is. And then sorry, that's a long way to answer your question. So like right after that, I've always like had like for 2 years, I wanted to do something online. Everyone else is doing something online. Why can't I do something
Yeah.
online? What would I do
Yeah.
online? Blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
then like I was like, well, I guess I'll just meditate again since that worked so well last time. Like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And then I meditated, and then the word prism came to me, and then I was like, wait a minute, like I manifest all the time, like everything in my life I've been manifesting for the last 8 years. I need to teach other people how to do this. And so then I made my prism manifestation workbook, which is free and will always be free because it was
Yeah.
given to me by my spirit guides.
That is so cool. So how has it been transitioning to less working hours, but now also having your business and juggling all the things? Can you speak about like what that transition has looked like, how you feel your time has been delegated and kind of all of those?
Such a good point because this really brings us back to like living in an aligned state. Like if you're at your aligned purpose or you feel like you're working in a job that you love, rather than one that you dread
Yeah.
going to every day, time
Yeah.
just expands. Like I don't know why, if it's joy or
Mhm.
love or whatever it is, like time expands. So I started working less working hours, which is only 2 days a week. Like I only went from 3 days a week to 2 days a week. I pulled my
Yeah.
kids out of full-time daycare because my daycare decided to work with me. So now I
Okay.
have my kids home with me 3 days a week.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I know, which is like, supposed to be like way harder.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started a business, and I gotta tell you, like, it's amazing. Like, I don't know, I'm telling you, like, we talk about it all the time. Like, I have way less time, way more responsibility with my kids being around, or like having to find activities to do, or like going places in the morning. But everybody is way more balanced. I feel more fulfilled. My husband is excelling at work. Like, it's just, I don't know. I think it's just something to be said or to speak on, like when you follow your true purpose, like even if it seems impossible or like, how could I add another thing onto my plate that's already full? You
Yeah.
will be amazed at what happens or like how time expands for you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that is so much of what I have also experienced is really chasing after like that fulfillment and like what you're passionate about. And by focusing your energy on the things that bring you joy, fill your cup, and that are your true passions, you just like have so much more energy in what you're doing, whether that be like the small day-to-day tasks or like the overall. Like I was just talking to my assistant today and it was like, okay, yes, I'm doing a lot, but I love what I'm doing. So it's like so much more fulfilling than going through the motions, maybe working less hours, but I leave feeling just like, ugh, gross. Like that
Yeah.
wasn't where I want my energy to be spent. But when you do stuff, like even if you're working more hours or, like you said, have more on your plate, if it's all fulfilling stuff or like stuff where you can see for me, like I know the work I'm doing is going towards like my 5-year goals. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that feels so worth it. And I don't regret any of it because I'm energized. I mean, yeah, I'm tired. I have a newborn and businesses and all the things that I'm juggling as a mom and a business owner, but I feel so fulfilled in what I'm doing that like I have more energy than if I was just coming to a job I didn't love and like clocking out at the end of the day, I think, because I know where I'm going and I have like a very clear why behind.
I totally agree, and I know it to be true. Like, because I worked this weekend, and I came home every day just, oh my God, don't talk to me. Like, please, I have to go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so drained. I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
like, I don't know about you or your childhood, but for me, and just like the generation my parents grew up in, they did not live their aligned purpose. And I feel for them. Like, I do have empathy for
Yeah.
whatever my parents went through or how they parented. Like, I forgive them because they were just doing the best they could with what they had, but they definitely were not living in their aligned purpose, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's so important for my children to see me chasing my dreams and like realizing my goals, even if it means like, hey, I got to go to work tonight or have a speaking engagement. Like, you can't come, but I love you and I'll see you
Yeah.
tomorrow. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, mom's doing work that makes her happy.
Yeah, I think that is so important. I actually just like did some writing on that recently because it's like as a working mom, I think there's so much guilt that can be kind of like thrown around and even unintentional guilt. Like for me as a business owner and a mom, like this Mom Boss Central community came out of necessity for me personally because what I ran into was I felt that I was in the mom groups, I was in the business groups, and I felt like they were contradicting each other. I felt like
Oh,
the
yeah.
mom groups were saying that I needed to like stay home to like be a good mom, or like I really needed to spend so many hours, but then those hours I wasn't present because my mind was elsewhere. And then the flip
Right.
side of it, it was like, okay, to run a business well, I need to be hitting X, Y, and Z goals. I need to be doing it a certain way. And I felt like these two worlds that were both like my passions and my joy were just so contradictory. Like I felt
Right.
like, how do I do both? And when I would speak to people that weren't a mom and or weren't a mom also running a business, I should say, the reaction was like, oh wow, like how do you do it all? It's so much, which like, yeah, I know that's like supposed to be a compliment, but really I felt a lot of guilt. Like, am I taking time away from my kids, or like should I not be doing this? And I feel like by creating this community of like, okay, we're all in the same boat, but like by me going after those things that bring me joy and passion, which yes, my kids do, but also my business does,
Uh-huh.
they are going to grow up to go after what they're passionate about.
Right.
Because if I were to just live my life and stay home, which don't get me wrong, I think that is the hardest career. And I have so much respect for the moms that choose to do that.
100%. Oh my gosh.
For me, that was, I would feel resentful. Like I know that I would because I have so much passion and like energy that I have that entrepreneurial spirit that I know I need to be going after. And if I weren't doing that because I felt like I needed to stay home, I would just not be the best version of myself for my kids, for my family, for anybody. And
Right.
so I just think that's so important, like to teach our kids, like you are okay to go after what you love in whatever that looks like. And sometimes it is like you work so hard in a career field and it feels like you're trapped because like, oh, I worked so hard to get here and now I'm here and it's not what I want. But like, would you want your kids to live that out? Like if they came to you and said, "Hey, I did all the things and I'm here and now I'm not happy." No one would tell their kid like, "Oh yeah, you got
Yeah.
to stay. You got to keep doing that like because you worked hard to get there." So I just think that's so important to like be that role model for our kids so they know it's okay because like you said, a lot of us didn't
Oh, not at all. Just did the best they could. But yeah, I think it's just a different time. I think a lot of us like are in jobs and we're like, this sucks. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I've been chasing. Wow. I do not want to do this for the rest of my life. And
Yeah.
the social media or the internet's so great because you can see other people doing things where before your circle was just like your community or your like hometown. So now you're able to see a much broader audience and be like, oh no, actually I can. Like, I can do anything I want.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is so powerful too with social media, like to now see the options that are out there. And like, if you are struggling to feel passionate about what you're doing, like, there's no excuse on why you can't start finding ways to pursue that because if you, like, there's somebody else out there doing it, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you just need to find them, but now it's so accessible, right? It's like, and that's same with parenting. Like, I think about that all the time with my parents versus like how I parent. It's like, okay, there's things they did that I definitely want to do differently. However, I also have something at my fingertips that is constantly giving me parenting tips and teaching me how to be a better parent without even
Right.
looking. I go on Instagram, how many of my reels are giving me parenting advice or giving me something that is going to help me be a better mom? And like, I'm so grateful for that because when my parents were parenting me, like, if they didn't tell somebody what was going on, they were not gonna be learning anything about parenting at
Right.
all, and I
Yeah.
just think that, like, we take that for granted, like, how accessible it is to have these real and honest conversations because there's people online that are sharing their experiences where who knows what kind of relationships our parents had and like how vocal people were about the struggles they faced as parents. Because I know the shame that was around that looked a lot different before social media than it does now. So I just think that's like why it's so important to kind of share our struggles and like create this platform for people that can say like, "Hey, you're not alone in this." Like
Right.
it's okay to feel unfulfilled in that career job like you shared. Like that's so important for somebody who might be listening who's been like in the day-to-day grind and they're like, "Okay, I don't feel like I can leave, but I don't know what else to do." So,
Right.
how did you I mean, come to the decision like within your family system that you felt comfortable?
No, I think we just knew that, like, it just wasn't for me. Like, my husband is a pretty high up there in the auto industry, and so I think we both looked at our careers and we're like, "Okay, one of us has to make a sacrifice." Like, one of us cannot we both cannot
Mm,
go to the top. And I'm not saying, like, if you're listening and you and your husband are both going to the top, like, go for it, sis. I am so happy for you. My family could not do that, and that's just our dynamic.
yeah.
My husband doesn't, like, fold laundry or do dishes or anything. And I
Yeah.
just and in
Yeah.
my marriage, in my life, I've decided I don't wanna fight about it anymore. I just wanna do it because I do it better anyway. So that's just our
Yeah.
dynamic and why I decided to not work. So, of course, like, financial is the first thing, and, could we afford it? Thankfully, we could. And then after, like, my, daycare worked with me, I think my net difference was, like, negative $300 a month, which $300 a month for me
Yeah.
after, like, for my peace and sanity was, "Okay, take it. I don't
Yeah,
care," you
so
know?
worth it.
So that was the
Yeah.
first piece, and then second piece was, like, just figuring, I mean, I think we just had to get really clear on our values and, like, what we wanted for our children, and, my oldest had a little bit of anxiety. We moved, like, when he was born, we've moved 3 times, so he's lived in 3 different houses, and then we lived in with my parents for a little bit while we were searching for a house. So, I mean, he's like, this move was hard on him, and so every time I dropped him off at daycare, he's, like, panicking, and that went on for months. It's like, "Okay, this is not sustainable for him or for us." So, that's kinda how we arrived
Yeah.
at that decision.
Yeah. That is, it's good to hear and share, like, those kind of struggles that you guys had to overcome and that you're aware of that and kind of able to still go after what you wanna go after while meeting his needs, because I
Sure.
think that can be it can feel so, like, limiting, like, "Okay, I want to help my child, but also there's not space for me to go after," and I think that's not true, like, it's
Right.
just kind of shifting your perspective. So, with that, I mean, you talked a little bit about, like, now that you're home more days and you kind of you said do morning activities and things like that. What does your schedule look like, or how do you juggle the balance of, like, working on your business when you're taking care of your kids? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I don't think my answer is a good one, but I'll tell you what I do. I don't have a newborn, but my 3-year-old does not sleep at all, so I'm, like, up
Mm,
all night. So I used to be, like, a 4:30 AM, 5 AM mom and would just get it all done then, and now I
mhm.
can't. So I always say to tell people, like, when they're discouraged or, like, "How can I do this? I don't have time." I always say, like, I'm fitting it in the margins. Like, I'm fitting it when they're, busy with snack, when I have, like, an activity set up, I'll make my little Instagram post for the day. I don't have time to batch content. Like I cannot sit down for 2 to 3 hours and do it. So I always do like 1 or 2 posts a day. And then of course, like my stories, I'll snap something while we're out and post it on stories really quick. As far as like the technical side of things, like on my website and like making content or making like PDFs, I do that at night. So I'll put them to bed at 7:30 and then I'll work until like 9:30 and then go to bed. Now that
Yeah.
like puts some strain on my relationship too. Like he's so supportive, but I do need to hang out with my husband once a week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have like in the beginning, I was like just obsessed, and I'm still like obsessed about it. I still obviously want a successful business, but I was like, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. I'm busy. And then finally I realized like, no, I actually have to take time, not only for him, but for myself too, to say like, I'm a mom, I'm a businesswoman. I'm also like me, and I have a
Yeah.
husband and I have a life and friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, fitting it in
Definitely.
the margins is what I do.
I feel like that's a great answer. I think somebody listening definitely needs to hear that because I think like there's so many solutions and systems and things to implement that all sound great, but aren't always realistic for our life. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's like such an honest answer. And I think that's like what somebody needs to hear is like, hey, if you've been struggling with that, it's okay if you can't get it perfect, but that's also not necessarily like an excuse of why not to get it done. Because, like you said, like you're posting your video while your kids are eating snack and like you're doing the content after they go to bed, which I'm not saying that that works for everybody, but for somebody who's been trying to maybe get into a routine that isn't working, there's other ways around that because I know like different seasons bring different things. And like for me, the newborn phase, like getting up early is not an option right
Right.
now. But like, after they go to bed is an option. But
Sure.
again, that also puts strain on my marriage. Like I totally can relate with that. And it's like, how do we balance all of the things? And I think it's looking at, okay, what's that goal? Because like you said, if you want to post a video every day and that's the goal, and then you can fit it in the margins. But if you don't set the goal in the first place,
Right.
that where you're not working towards anything at all. So I think that's something that you said that is important to note too, is like if your goal is to do a video of a day, one video a day, you're going to make it work. You're going to find time. It might not be the perfect time and the perfect video, but if you're doing that,
Yeah.
it's just creating the space for it. So I
And
think
then
that's
like
so helpful and such a good real answer
yeah.
too.
And then, like, my 3-year-old, he still naps. He'll take, like, a 30-minute nap because otherwise he's a bear. So during that 30 minutes, and my 5-year-old and I will go outside. I'll set up a tripod, and I'm like, "Okay, hit the button." And he, like, hits the
Yeah.
iPhone button, and then I do, like,
Yeah.
B-roll footage, which for people who aren't in social media, that's, like, when you see people, like, staring at a tree or walking across the camera. That's called
Staring
B-roll.
at a tree. Yeah.
People being like, "I love this tree." You don't love that
Yeah, I
tree.
have,
You're just
like,
looking
so
at a
many
tree.
videos of me sitting at my desk, like, holding my child, like, that is the
Yeah.
epitome of my B-roll, but the stare.
It's, like, involving him too, and he has, like, a little play camera, so he's like, "I'm gonna make a
Oh,
video too," and so, yeah, just trying to, like, get it around them.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that's awesome, and I think a good strategy for somebody who has a kid that's a little bit older, you can get them involved and make it, like, a fun thing if you're struggling to find time, like, that's a great idea, get your kid in on the production side of things, like, hit the button, make it a fun game, let them feel like they are, like, contributing to your business too,
Yeah,
and that's, another way to kind of inspire them to go after what they're passionate about, see it in action, and find ways to make it work, so I
sure,
think
yeah.
that's awesome. Do you have any, like, specific struggles that you've overcome since starting your business and trying.
The struggle that I've gotten through is I don't know if it's about juggling mostly, but it's actually just, knowing my self-worth or, like, realizing my
Mm,
worth, like, understanding that,
yeah.
understanding that I have something to say, which a lot, like in the
Yeah.
beginning, it's like, I mean, who's listening? What do I have to say? Like, nobody cares what I have to say. But like, the reality is if you show up, if you believe in your why, or if you have a strong
Hmm.
why and you show up and you start talking, like, people are going to listen to you. And it can
Yeah.
be, talking is a broad term to say like writing on a, or showing up on a podcast, writing on a post, making a reel, like whatever
Yeah.
your quote unquote talking is, if you can show up, people are going to listen. I mean, if you have a really
Yeah.
strong why and it's guided and aligned, I mean, people are going to show up for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's so good. So good. So how do you feel like that's translated to you as a business owner, kind of coming into that?
Did you ever go through that? Like, just like you're getting your ego out of the way and saying, like, okay, so like for me, it's about wealth and manifestation. And I want to make people wealthy by getting them to their most aligned purpose, right? So I
Hmm.
like truly believe in this because my why is that I think that putting women in a position of leadership and making
Hmm.
women wealthy is going to change the
Yeah.
world. Like, I truly believe that women with money and power is going to change and shift the paradigm of our world, because we just need conscious people who are aware that, spirituality exists, or just aware that their energy exists, that are going to change the world. So that is my why. Who am I to like tell people that? Or like, what am I like, what
Yeah.
is this gonna like, I don't even know like how to show up or do that. So once I was able to just get past that and just say like, okay, even if one person listens, or even if one person, I change the life of one person, who knows what that one
Yeah.
person is going to do. Like, there's so much to be said about
100%.
like, yeah, like you are influencing people, good or bad, whether or neutral, whether you know it or not. In the same way that you're
Hmm.
manifesting good, bad, neutral, whether you're aware of it or not, you are doing it. So let's just like
Yeah.
be aware of it so that we can do it in like a positive way.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I did go through that for sure. And I feel like so many people, as I've started speaking about it, it's like, oh, wow, so many people do experience that, but it can feel so isolating and lonely, like that imposter syndrome, and like, who
Right.
am I to speak on that? Or like, who am I to share if I don't have it all figured out? And I think like the way we overcome that is by talking about it and like helping people understand like you're not alone. That's so common. I think, like you
Mhm.
said, I think everybody goes through it at some season. For me, I got into real estate at 19. I became a broker owner at 23. It's like, okay, well, who am I to tell people how to buy a house? And then when I got into the brokerage side of things, like, who am I to tell people how to succeed in real estate? Like, was I just lucky? That was the question that I kept
Yes.
having to overcome.
Just like high achieving syndrome.
Yeah, yeah, and it was like, and it's still, I mean, even with the Mom Boss Central community, I'm like, okay, this came out of my need and my desire to like help women that are moms and business owners, because I think we are a select group, right? Like it takes a special person to understand. However, like, who am I to like speak on it? Like, I don't have it all figured out. I haven't figured out
Right.
how to like balance all the things, right? But like, has anybody? Like,
No.
no, I think we're all out here doing our best. And like you said, if I can like share something that helps one person, it makes it all worth it. And like that's
Yeah.
what I just try to like stay focused on and like remember in those days of like, why the heck am I doing this? It's like, no, I have a clear why. And if the why is one person, like it feels worth it. And I think that is like what continues to like energize me and like fill my cup, because I know, okay, I don't have to have it all figured out. We are all in this together. So I'm so happy that you said that, because I think that somebody listening definitely needs to hear that, because I think we all struggle with it in one season or another. And even in different seasons. I mean, I know like as my business has evolved, I overcame it in one aspect and then it comes up again. Like,
Right.
from selling real estate to then talking to new agents, like, oh, maybe I'm just lucky to get started. Well, maybe I'm just lucky that the coaching will, like all those different like levels of
Right.
it. Like I don't feel like there's a way to just escape it. Like it's going to come up. So when it does, it's how you approach it and like your mindset around that, and like the constant like affirmations that you tell yourself of like, you're not alone, you are qualified, and like really what's your goal behind it? Like if it's to impact and make an influence a couple people or one person even.
Too is like when you mentioned imposter syndrome, like I haven't like I had to work through my imposter syndrome in this business, but I kept looking back. Like I don't feel like I can turn back because I felt like an imposter in my job. Like because I wasn't with my
Yeah.
aligned and true purpose, right? So I felt like I was already an imposter. I had imposter syndrome every day. So if I'm looking at the two
Yeah.
options and I'm looking at one that fills my cup and one that leaves me drained, like I would really like to overcome the one that fills my cup and like get that
Yeah.
imposter syndrome rather than regress back to what's safe, what's comfortable, what I already know,
Oh,
etc.
so good.
So like
Yeah.
if you're gonna battle imposter syndrome, like you might as well battle it in the place that fills your cup.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. I think that's so important for people to hear because that's true. Like you're gonna deal with it. So you might
It's like every single person I've met, successful or not, deals with imposter syndrome. You are not alone. Like
Yeah.
even the highest, like I have several friends who are really high up in companies, corporations, manage like CFOs of Fortune 500. They have imposter syndrome. Like these badass
Yeah.
women and men that like are making the decisions for our nation have imposter syndrome. So does the guy that works
Yeah.
at Speedy, like the Speedy gas station. Like we all do.
Yeah.
So like let's just get over it and do something that fills our cup.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Do you have any tips for moms that are trying to get a business started towards work-life integration, work-life balance? I love that you said, work within the margins, but
Like it's hard. Like everybody wants to see the path in front of them before they take the step on it. But what the thing is that like already like they want to know that they will succeed. They want to know that this is the way that they're supposed to go. I talk a lot about following your intuition and following your gut. And if you follow your gut and your heart, you cannot be wrong. The universe will support you in whatever you decide to do. So when you take the first step on a path that you don't see the end to or you don't see where it goes, the path will appear. So just go for it. Like if you don't go for it, somebody else will. So it might as well be you since you've been thinking about it for so long.
yeah. Yeah, so good. Dang. Well, thank you so much, Kathleen, for sharing everything you did. I think it was so valuable, and I love how honest and raw you were about what's working for you and how you're transitioning because I think that is so important to talk about. And I think it's also just like important for moms to know like we don't have to have it all figured out to like a science and a formula, but like we're going to get through it and you can make it work and you can still pursue those passions and those dreams without necessarily saying like, this is the formula. It's 100% going to work 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So I love everything you shared. If someone wants to connect with you or learn more about your business and
me would be on Instagram. Prism Wealth Collective is the name of my business. I offer a lot of value just in my reels alone on how to manifest your dream life. And of course, I have several courses for anybody looking to supercharge their results and use their intuition to grow their business. You need to tell me
love
something
it.
right now? Okay.
He's to watch the show.
Yeah, I'll come
Well,
watch it with you.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on and being part of the Mom Boss Central community. I know that you have definitely helped our listeners today and myself as well. I'm taking stuff away and really excited to see all that you do with your to thrive.
Thank you for having me on, Alexia. So nice to meet you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Mom Boss Central. I hope you found inspiration, encouragement, and maybe even a few new strategies to rock your mom boss journey. Remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together. And don't forget to share the love with your fellow mom bosses. Make sure to join the community at mombosscentral.com. It's completely free and a space to connect with like-minded women. All you have to do is sign up and start connecting. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and living authentically. We're so happy to have you as part of the Mom Boss Central community.